two rows of the grid from our commentary position. Yes, we reckon it's, thank you, James, it looks like 18 cars to us. Well, there in pole position, Prost, and alongside him, Rosberg, and away they go around the warm-up lap.
They come round, they break down into what's really, it calls itself two corners, turn one and turn two. It's left-hander, quite open in the entry there. They're still slowing down through this bit, then it tightens up and they go into quite a tight, narrow exit out of there, which is not a bad thing to have a bit of space to funnel into for the first corner when everything's a little bit crowded. Accelerating away down the straight into turn 3, which is a right-angle right-hander. The circuit is characterized by an awful lot of very straightforward right angles, very slow, track very narrow, you see there, narrower than most street circuits even, and it's very much squirt it, stop it, turn it and squirt it again operation for drivers here. Here they come down to one of the really tight first gear hairpins, immediately turning right out of it. We're now moving on to turn 7, the left-hander again, another right angle. See, at least the track opens out a little there, they're getting a little bit quicker. Then they wind a little bit past the Congress Centre, which is on both sides of the track there, down into sharp left on turn 8, then they turn right again very sharply. Second gear stuff. The second gear, of course, will take a terrible bashing in the gearbox, being constantly beaten in and out, and all that load going through using a low second gear, they'll be for the tight circuit. Transmissions will be at a premium. We've already seen drive shaft go onto Cesaris's car, and I should think we'll probably see a few more transmissions fail to take the distance. Now they're coming down one of the longer straights on the circuit to turn 12. They go through there, left hand. Then they turn left-handed again through turn 13, similar corner. Winding around again, where they're just about to come out onto the riverfront. There they go through turn 15, out onto the riverfront, into the tunnel. They're now headed back towards the pits, but they've got a couple of little hiccups, little slow hiccups on the way. So as you can see, a very busy circuit indeed for the drivers. Not really any serious amount of rest. Very hard on the machinery because it's all stop, start, squirt stuff, but not quite as hard on the driver as some circuits because we haven't got the long radius sweeping curves where the cars can really build up the big G. They won't be putting quite such big G forces here, but at the same time, the drivers are going to be pretty tired because they're up and down through the gearbox all the time. Concentration, as usual in the street circuit, at an absolute premium when you're surrounded by a tunnel of walls where 1 foot wrong, off comes the corner of the car, and three-wheelers don't win Grand Prix.
Right, thanks, James. Now, I remind you, everybody, watch the car on the left, the white and green Williams of Keke Rosberg. The first turn and the approach to it is absolutely critical to him. There is the pole position man, Alain Prost, who was leading part 1 when it was stopped on lap 7. And Keke Rosberg with his 3-litre engine, watch the lights as ever. The only circuit in the world where normal traffic can go through as the race is running. Go! And Rosberg was left, and Prost gets away beautifully now. Is Rosberg, and Pironi is right up with them. And Prost and Rosberg fighting for the lead, and Prost has got it as he did in the first part. So it is Prost and Rosberg and Pironi, and then behind Pironi is Bruno Giacomelli. Then it is one of the Talbots, and Nigel Mansell is coming up well. It's Prost, Rosberg, Pironi, Giacomelli, Cheever, I think it is. Yes, it must be Eddie Cheever. Down to the hairpin, and it's still Prost, Rosberg, Pironi. Giacomelli, Cheever's up a place. There's Arnoux trying to fight his way through, pushing by Nigel Mansell at the side, and Niki Lauda going through. And they're all round the hairpin successfully on the first lap.
Oh, a little bit of bumping and boring there. Mansell got pushed so wide so far out, he didn't have enough lock to make the corner and had to actually spin the wheels to bring the back round, and nearly got in the wall for no other reason. A great start by Keke Rosberg. He certainly used his best endeavours. He got away from the line first of those 3 front runners, but he was then swallowed up for power down to the first corner by turbocharged engines. He had his nose in front, but he didn't have the line. He couldn't get any daylight between him and Prost. Prost, very cool, very experienced now, drives with like a man with considerably more years experience than he has got. held on to things, and he's got Rosberg where he wants him, behind him, and now all he has to do is defend. Well, I say that, he's got an awful lot of defending to do and an awful long way to go, but he's done, on this sort of street circuit, really the lion's share of the work already.
Well, almost one lap completed as they come out of the Atworth Water Tunnel down to turn 16, now on and into the start and finish straight, round the kink, and Alain Prost leads into the start and finish straight, up to turn 1 and 2 again. Now, Alain Prost has done exactly what he needed to do with Rosberg in second place. He has managed to get clear on the first lap. And how clear, because that is quite a cushion. That is over a second at the end of one lap, which around a street circuit like this takes a heck of a lot of doing. In fact, the gap was just on 2 seconds as he went round the corner there. Rosberg second, Pironi third.
Yes, looking at the first heat in the earlier part of the race that we saw, it does look as if Prost has he had a little bit in hand, I felt then, over Rosberg. Rosberg seemed to be on the limit, and he's used that to advantage there. He was wrestling before, but now he's just going away very well indeed. He was on the pole. He's obviously in command of this race. I think he'll go away, give himself a little lead, and then probably do as he did in the first heat, try and take it easy, because he's got a long way to go, and physical and mechanical endurance are going to be the order of the day.
And this, of course, is exactly what Alain Prost did at Monaco. He built up a lead, and then in the 74th lap out of 76, he lost it because of a combination of Derek Daly's oil and rain. So Keke Rosberg is in second place, Pironi is third, Giacomelli there in the Alfa Romeo is in fourth place, then Eddie Cheever. René Arnoux in the second of the Renaults is in sixth position, so both the turbo Renaults are well up into World Championship point standings at the present moment, albeit with a long way to go. And they have Niki Lauda there. That's interesting. The caption shows 7 laps, of course. They are adding on the laps that are being done in this second half to the 6 laps that were finished in the first section of the race. And we were expecting the race to last 64 laps. There is Cheever in 5th position, followed by Arnoux in 6th place. Now let's see who's in 7th position. And we've got computer working, bringing the tyres together as René Arnoux tries to challenge Eddie Cheever in 5th place. The V12 Talbot, the V6 turbocharged Renault, 5th and 6th places, and a wonderful, almost aerial view as we look down on them from one of the skyscrapers. There are some extremely good camera positions here, and there is Niki Lauda in 7th place in the Marlboro McLaren car, and René Arnoux is really challenging Cheever. Meantime, Giacomelli is pulling away a bit. There is the red and white McLaren behind, the MP4 car, and now the leader, Alain Prost, on lap 3 in this rerun section. That means lap 9 altogether when you take into account the first part. We'll give you a time difference on Alain Prost as he goes past us. But at the moment, the gap is some 2.84 seconds, and the gap between Keke Rosberg and Didier Pironi is 1.6 seconds. So there's about 4 seconds separating the first and third men. Into the tunnel for the third time in this restarted race. And Alain Prost is showing all his class, and he really does deserve a win. He has had another win, I should say, because after all, he has 5 wins already in the last 2 years, 2 this year, 3 last year. Another lap completed. Prost, and he's easing out all the time the gap between himself and Keke Rosberg. Keke Rosberg must be getting very bored with second position. He's had it for so long in so many races this year. By the way, Eliseo Salazar, the Chilean driver, actually started the race, hit one of the barriers, a glancing blow on the first lap, and rejoined. He's gone into the pits in our sight, as has Michele Alboreto, the Tyrrell driver who has driven so well this year and had bad luck at Monaco. Michele Alboreto, who's in 7th position in the World Championship. There is Prost. This is lap 4. And when I give you lap numbers, it is for the second part of the race. Remember, 6 others in the first part.
Well, looking at the way Prost's driving at the moment, it looks horribly like a Prost benefit to me. I think I get the feeling he's already eased up a little and is not going absolutely flat out. He's driving a conservative type race, conserving himself and his car, and it must be very depressing for Keke Rosberg following behind, having this constant view of Prost's rather unattractive exhaust pipe. At least it's unattractive to you when you're chasing it and trying to get past it. And he's seen an awful lot of it this year. Prost has really been the outstanding driver-car combination with his Renault throughout the season in Grand Prix racing. Has surprisingly few results to date, and funnily enough, one of his 2 wins was a luck out in that it was on technicalities, and he got handed after the win after a disqualification. So anyway, he certainly deserves 2 wins. Nobody can argue with that. But as I say, he's boring us all a bit by being too dominant of this race, and it's a pity because it doesn't look as if Rosberg's going to get back on terms and give him a straight fight.
Well, there is Rosberg, and Pironi still in 3rd place. Bad news for those of you wide world of sport viewers who are interested in the John Player Special Lotus mark, because Nigel Mansell is dropping back. He's in 9th position, and on lap 5 in this restarted race, Alain Prost, that we are looking at now, leads with Keke Rosberg in 2nd place, with Pironi in 3rd position, with Giacomelli in 4th place, with Chiva in 5th position, with Arnoux 6th and Lauda 7th. In 8th position is Derek Daly. In 9th place is Jacques Lafitte. In 10th position is Jochen Maas. In 11th place is Nigel Mansell, dropping back. And in 12th position is Mansell's teammate Elio De Angelis. That is lap 5, and we're almost at the end of it, you see. And it looked to me as though Didier Pironi is closing up slightly on Keke Rosberg. Meantime, our producer is favouring Alain Prost, who leads. Into the tunnel for the 5th time, Alain Prost. Out of it. Down to turn 17. The right-hander, out of it. Now up to the kink, which is turn 18, the left, right, left, left, right, left, and out of it. Past the pits complex to complete lap 5. Alain Prost leads. There is Rosberg in the background. There is Pironi, there is Giacomelli. So it's Rosberg 2nd, Pironi 3rd. In the red and white car is Bruno Giacomelli. Then in the Talbot, Eddie Chiva. Now René Arnoux. And behind René Arnoux is Niki Lauda in the Marlboro McLaren car in 7th position, chased by Derek Daly. There is Chiva, that is. And Giacomelli closing up on Pironi. Pironi has less of an advantage on this circuit against the Alfa Romeo than he would have on a fast circuit, because the Alfa Romeo is very quick indeed and has got extremely good low-speed torque, the V12 engine. And Giacomelli is another driver, like Alain Prost, who is very much after a win. Giacomelli led at Watkins Glen the year before last, the last Grand Prix of the 1980 series, and since then the Alfa Romeo has been dramatically improved. It's the centre of these 3 cars in 4th position. There's Eddie Chiva 5th, and the V12 Alfa Romeo has been enormously improved by Gérard Ducarouge, the ex-Talbot Ligier team manager, who's designed a completely new car. And look how Giacomelli's pressing.
Yes, Giacomelli's going very well indeed now. He's really climbing all over the back of the Ferrari. And, of course, just to add spice to that battle for the Italian community out there in Australia. I know there's a terrifically large Italian community who are very, very keen on motor racing. They will know only too well that there is massive traditional rivalry between Ferrari and Alfa Romeo. So whoever you're rooting for, this is a good battle.
And into lap 7 they go now, with Alain Prost still leading, but a good battle behind him, and Keke Rosberg, who is second for third position. There's Cheever, who is fifth. Behind Eddie Cheever, you should see the red and white car of Niki Lauda, if we dwell for a moment on one of the corners. But that's Eddie Cheever, fifth position. Lauda in sixth place then. Prost leading, Rosberg second, Pironi third. In fourth position, Bruno Giacomelli. In fifth position, Cheever. In sixth position, Lauda. And as far as cars are concerned, with Giacomelli now, as James rightly says, climbing all over the Scarlet Ferrari, turbocharged 1.5 litre Ferrari of Didier Pironi, and trying now to go through, but he won't get past there. Trying to pass somebody on a right-angled corner is difficult, but when it's Pironi, it's quite impossible. And Cheever now is having a go at Giacomelli.
Yes, a wonderful demonstration of the power of the Ferrari. They climb all over him in the corners, closing right up against Giacomelli. Now you watch that lead stretch away. Ferrari just has a huge amount of power. The turbocharged engine there, I would say, is a good bit more powerful than the Renault's, but the Renault's got a much better chassis. Here they are, climbing all over each other, and there's this Cheever climbing in all over the back just to add spice to the thing. Very good close-up shot there. The camera doesn't quite have this all in the frame, but excellent stuff. Now we're going to see the Ferrari once more stride away, and it does make it impossible to pass in that situation, really. You can see that he's pulling anything up to 6 or 7 lengths on any sizable straight, and you can't pass from that far back. You've got to have your nose alongside at least to have a stab, especially against the driver of Pironi's experience.
And there, look back a bit, and you see Niki Lauda. Now, because Pironi is holding up Giacomelli, and because Giacomelli is holding up Cheever, Niki Lauda, with a comparatively clear circuit in front of him, is closing up all the time on the third, fourth, fifth men. Niki Lauda in sixth position. Still Prost leading, still Rosberg in second place. There is Pironi, Giacomelli, Cheever, third, fourth, fifth. Watch, though, for the red and white car of Niki Lauda with the red rear wing. That's the way to tell the difference from a distance between the seemingly identical red and white Alfa Romeo and the red and white Marlboro McLaren. Same livery, distinguished by the different colours of the aerofoils at the front and the rear. They're black carbon fibre on the Alfa.
Another problem, of course, that the drivers suffer from, there's Cheever having a little look, but not really there. Another problem the drivers suffer from on a circuit like this is when trying to overtake, they've got a very, very restricted visibility because their heads are only about the height of the wall, so they can't see over the wall or see anything there. And, of course, when the circuit's so narrow, their vision is basically filled by the car in front. You can see where Giacomelli was then right up under the Ferrari's wing. He can't see much of the corner. He can't see where it is unless he comes out. And he's then still got the Ferrari in the way of some of his reference points. So this visibility problem and lack of reference points on the circuit, because you're in this tunnel of either cement or metal barrier with reflection even off the barrier, is a problem peculiar to street circuits, and it's a big one when you put it on top of all the other problems there are for passing.
Well, now, our American producer is very sensibly staying with the most exciting battle in the whole race, and with Prost leading and Rosberg on his own in second place, Niki Lauda in sixth place. There, the fourth of these cars, is closing all the time on Eddie Cheever, who is fifth, Giacomelli, who is fourth, and Pironi, who is third. And you've seen the caption which told you that Niki Lauda is the fastest man on the circuit. Alain Prost is now 3.6 seconds ahead of Keke Rosberg. Pironi, Giacomelli, Lafitte, Lauda, Cheever, Lauda. And the gap between Cheever and Lauda is 1.03 seconds. And I do not think it is going to take ex-double world champion Niki Lauda all that long to nibble away at that. But then Lauder's going to have the problem that's already facing Cheever and Giacomelli, how to get past the man in front. Where can you do it on a circuit like this, with cars that are as wide as this and whose performance is as similar as it is?
Nowhere is the answer to that, quite honestly. With the Ferrari's superior power out in front, it does, without any doubt, Pironi is going to have to make a mistake. Either that or... I mean, the only chance is for Giacomelli to have a total kamikaze run at him, of which Giacomelli has proved himself quite capable in the past, I should add. But I think it would have to be kamikaze even beyond Giacomelli's potential here, quite honestly. No, you've got to wait for a mistake or a problem with the Ferrari. I think the Ferrari is probably running pretty hard on the tyres. It's a very heavy car, puts a lot more power than the Ford engine cars through its rear tyres, and it seemed to slow down in the previous heat as the laps wore on, and we're now running into that sort of distance. And but of course, the big problem then is if he's going slow around the corners, he still can't be passed. He squirts it away down the straights, and it just builds a bigger train, as we've seen so many times in the last 18 months since Ferrari introduced these turbocharged cars. Then they haven't yet produced a good chassis. This one is a major improvement on the dreadful abortion that they turned out last year, which is an excuse for a chassis, but it's by no means a good chassis. They've got a more powerful engine than the Renault's up front, driving away very smoothly.
Well, I can tell you, as we look out of the box, that Keke Rosberg is actually starting to catch Alain Prost. He's putting in a charge. The gap that you saw on the caption of 7 seconds has now been reduced, and Keke Rosberg is now 6 seconds behind, so he's gained a second and a half on the race leader. But even if he gets on Prost's tail, as you can see from what Pironi and Giacomelli and Cheever and Lauder are doing, Prost has only got to hold his racing line confidently, and he is now more than experienced and competent enough to do that, to make it virtually impossible for Rosberg to get past. So we are now watching a race where a lot of drivers are trying to pressure a driver or drivers in front of them to make a mistake in the knowledge that there's no other way they're going to get past.
Yes, the big problem with trying to put pressure on like that to somebody like Pironi, who's now had plenty of experience of driving the turbocharged Ferrari, is of course that there is no pressure. When you know you can go any speed you like round the corner and then still squirt it down the next straight and just walk away from the opposition, thereby rendering them no chance at the next corner, you're not under any pressure. The time, of course, when there is pressure is when you're in a car that's not very powerful on the straight, and you know you've got to get that corner absolutely dead right, maximum speed to maintain your momentum up to the next corner. This is not the case for Pironi. He's under no pressure. The only pressure he's suffering from is throwing rather a pig chassis around. Ferrari have never been great chassis builders. This is one of their better efforts, but it can't be a lot of fun to drive.
A better effort designed, incidentally, by the man with the unlikely but real name of Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite, who is an Englishman and who was taken on by Ferrari to make up for the deficiencies of the home engineers. Now, on lap 11 in this part 2, to which you have to add 6 laps from part 1 and do a complicated time equation, and with Didier Pironi in 3rd position.
Yes, I was going back to what you're saying about Harvey Postlethwaite. Certainly Ferrari, it was a wise move for them to try and get into some of the British technology as far as chassis building is concerned, which has always been superior, whilst they picked probably the best engineer in the business in terms of producing cars very well, engineering them very well. Harvey Postlethwaite has never been one of our top designers. He has never, in fact, designed a winning car for Grand Prix racing. Cars he's designed have won a couple of Grand Prix, but they've never been competitive. The Hesketh was his first effort. We won 1 race with that, but that was against the form. The car wasn't really up to it, and his subsequent efforts were never winning cars. He won a car with Jody Scheckter, with the Wolf car he designed, but again, it was through good preparation, good engineering, rather than through being fast, and being well driven, of course, in Jody's case.
Now, something I can tell you significant from our lap chart and personal observation is that René Arnoux, in the second of the Renaults, and Alain Prost is leading in the first, is gradually slipping down through the field. He was in 7th position. He's now in 9th place, and ahead of him are Derek Daly, who is 7th, and Jacques Lafitte, who is 8th, both of whom have somehow scrambled past Arnoux while we have been concentrating on this battle. And on lap 11, to which you have to add the 6 laps from part 1, in the lead, Alain Prost still. Keke Rosberg in 2nd position, about 6 seconds behind the leader. The battle for 3rd position, which you are looking at now, with Didier Pironi in the Ferrari in 3rd place. Bruno Giacomelli in the Alfa Romeo 4th. Eddie Cheever in the Talbot 5th. Niki Lauda in the McLaren in 6th position. Then, as I said, Derek Daly in 7th position, Jacques Lafitte 8th, René Arnoux slipping down in 9th position, in 10th place Jochen Maas in the March, in 11th place John Watson in the McLaren, and in 12th place is Nigel Mansell. And as we look at Niki Lauda, I draw your attention to one significant point, and that is that Niki seems to be, to me, to be keeping a slightly cautious distance from the 3 cars in front of him. It looks to me as though Lauda is not quite as close to Cheever as Cheever is to Giacomelli and Giacomelli is to Pironi. In other words, Niki Lauda is watching points.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think not so much watching points, Murray. I think with his experience, he realises that there's nothing he can do to pass these boys. So I think he's, for the time being, he's sitting back and letting the young lions sort it out, hoping they might make a little mistake to make a gap for him, because that's really his best chance of moving up places. Because, well, he's closed up there a bit, but I think he's conserving his strength for later in the race. He knows that it's going to be a very long, hard battle, and I don't think he particularly wants to pass, say, Eddie Cheever and just get himself in the middle, which would be much harder work for him. He'd much rather see Cheever and Giacomelli, and there is Cheever having a go around the outside of Giacomelli, but not succeeding, I don't think. No, Giacomelli always had the inside of the corner, but they're beginning to scrap a bit now and letting Pironi get away, which might prompt Lauda then to do something about it and try and move up. But he is the quickest car on the circuit, Lauda. He's put up the fastest lap in this race so far. So I think it, unless something's gone wrong with his car, we can't say he's struggling to hold on. Murray's absolutely right. He's watching.
Well, you may be confused about how the results are going to be arrived at. Let me tell you that the times of the individual drivers that all finish the 1st and 2nd parts will be added together, and obviously the lowest time will be the winner, and so on. And at the present moment, I can tell you from our computer information that Keke Rosberg, on an accumulation of the times of the 1st part and the part that is run so far in the 2nd half of the race, not the 2nd half, 2nd part of the race, is only 5 seconds behind Alain Prost. So it's still a very, very close thing. But I suspect we're going to need some pretty delicate computer work to sort the results out. And it's heartening that at the present moment, most of the runners are still very much in the race. I was saying earlier on that with only a few starting in comparison with the full 26 who were supposed to go at part 2, we were expecting decay to set in pretty early. Well, thank heavens it hasn't yet set in to any great extent. Elio De Angelis has disappeared off our lap charts and we haven't seen him anywhere around the circuit. But it is still then on lap 13, Alain Prost leading, Keke Rosberg 2nd, Prost in the Renault, Rosberg in the Williams. 3rd, Pironi Ferrari. 4th is Giacomelli Alfa Romeo. 5th, Eddie Cheever there in the blue Talbot. 6th, Niki Lauda in the McLaren. Then, still in 7th position, Derek Daly, and Daly too is starting to close up. He's fought his way past Arnoux, who delayed him a lot, and René Arnoux is still in 9th position. A very unhappy man. I seem to say this every race, but Arnoux has had the most appalling luck this season, and they go virtually into that left-right sequence of bends together, those 4 cars. And there, out of the race, is the ATS of, let's check, the ATS of Eliseo Salazar. So Winkelhock failed to start, and Salazar, the Chilean driver, out of the race. I spoke too soon when I said that the decay hadn't started. Salazar, not the happiest of men in Grand Prix racing at the present moment. although he finished 9th in South Africa, he didn't finish in Brazil or Long Beach or Belgium or Monaco. He did finish in 5th place in San Marino, and now he is out in Detroit. Alain.
And so with this 3+ second lead that he's got from the previous heat, he may have opted just to take a pretty steady race, a nice steady pace, and just make sure he makes no mistakes, thereby rendering the old story with the turbocharged power, making it impossible for Rosberg to pass. And he's got a 3-second cushion just in case Rosberg does get past, and he can then go for a big chase.
We talk a lot about tyres in Grand Prix racing these days because they're so critical, and a few words on the situation here could be highly relevant, because the two giant tyre companies of Michelin and Goodyear roughly split the Grand Prix teams between them. And look at that, Rosberg going through, or trying to. Now Rosberg has come right back from a 3 seconds gap which had started, and now he's really harrying, kicking Alain Prost.
He was certainly using the surprise tactics there. He surprised me anyway, that was for sure. I certainly didn't expect an attempt there, but whilst it looked like an awful long shot and very ambitious, it wasn't so far off coming off. So Rosberg is obviously keeping well on his toes and thinking well, because there was no doubt that that was an attempt to catch Prost asleep, and he certainly woke me up. I think he probably did catch Prost asleep, but he was just a little bit too ambitious to make the space.
Keke Rosberg in effect saying, watch it mon ami, because if you put one wheel wrong, zap, I'm going to be through. And Keke Rosberg is a very, very determined, hard-charging driver. And of great significance is the fact that Keke Rosberg is acknowledged to be very hard on the driving rear tyre. Now, they both drive, I know, and here he is having a close-up right on Alain Prost. But whichever rear tyre it is that is doing the most work on any circuit is the one that tends to suffer with Rosberg. He is very, very hard on motor cars. For instance, when the car came back from the Brazilian Grand Prix, in which Rosberg finished in 2nd place, although he was subsequently disqualified. Although he had run the whole race distance seemingly all right, the monocoque was a complete write-off and had to be replaced because Rosberg had curved it and distorted it so much that it was a throwaway job. So he's a very hard man. Will the car last? Will the tyres last? Right, we are now on lap 16 as Rosberg tries, and Prost refuses.
He's got his sights fixed on that little point, and he was closer that time than the time before, but of course now he's signalled his intentions. The problem with missing a manoeuvre like that is your intentions are then signalled, and the guy in front of you knows that you're going to have a crack the next lap or whenever you're in position. But as Murray said, Rosberg is hard in every respect. He's a very hard trier. He's forceful, and he's growing in confidence all the time. And he is
That's
through.
it.
Oh, and they're going to touch. And he's made it. And I don't know whether he's crippled Prost or whether Prost just said, I've had enough of this, or maybe knocked out of gear. But terrific, forceful stuff from Keke Rosberg.
And look at the way he's sprinting away. I think, actually, Alain Prost did the gentlemanly thing. It may seem a little strange that a racing driver should do that in the position he was in, but I actually think that Prost saw that if he didn't back off, Keke Rosberg was going to go straight into the barrier. Let's have a look. Here it is again. Alain Prost wide into the corner. Keke Rosberg starts to close, coming out of the corner, and I think Prost missed a gear. Prost must have missed a gear.
Yes, it certainly looked like he hadn't got an acceleration, and then, and from now onwards, we would actually see Rosberg sliding about nearly into the wall. He was off on the slippery marbles where all the debris comes off the line. You see Prost is still not accelerating there, and I think he was fumbling around with gears or something like that, but he's got going again. But it'll be interesting to see if he can do anything to stay with Rosberg now. The gap is already established because of Prost sorting himself out, so we'll see what happens.
Well, get the stopwatches out in Australia, folks, because now the race is well and truly on, and I can tell you from our computer information that if Keke Rosberg is more than 3.2 seconds in front of Alain Prost, he is in the lead overall, and the gap now is 2.3 seconds. If Rosberg can increase his lead by just 1 more second, he will be in the lead overall.
I think Prost may be in trouble. He seemed to go very slowly around that corner as he came into shot just now, and he may be having some transmission trouble or something. So the gap, well, it could be that on driving, but it's biggish. The gap is 3 seconds. It's over 3 seconds already. So Rosberg is very, very close to the lead indeed already.
3.16 seconds when I took it on my watch there. Now let's see what it is here. The answer is 3.37 seconds. Keke Rosberg leads the Detroit Grand Prix of 1982 overall as he goes over the freeway with the normal transport going along it. Keke Rosberg has thrust and forced his way determinedly through into the lead as he goes into the Atwater Tunnel for the 18th time. And the positions now are, and I'm giving you the second part of the race, not overall. Keke Rosberg leads, and this is the first full lap which Keke Rosberg has been in the lead as he goes past Salazar's broken motor car, with Alain Prost now in second position, and still the battle rages for third between Pironi, Giacomelli, and behind Giacomelli, Cheever.
Keke Rosberg urgently needs just to calm down right now and take that little bit of adrenaline out of his driving. No doubt it was all very exciting that instant. He's got into the lead, but he's streaking away, and it would be just cataclysmic to make a mistake now. I don't think he will, but he's really driving on the limit, and that isn't absolutely necessary right now. I know it's nice to build a lead in a couple of laps and then relax, but he can afford to drive defensively right now.
And he leads overall by 0.7 seconds. He leads this part by 3.9 seconds. Niki Lauda is still in sixth position, and Prost really does seem to be slowing down, almost stationary there.
That was the same spot that he came round very slowly on the last lap, Murray. Now, I don't know whether that's some sort of a fuel pickup problem, but it seems awfully full of petrol for that. Usually when you get a point on the circuit, it's always the same that the car slows down. It usually means there's something like that, but yes, he certainly stretched it out quite a lot, and so for some reason Prost is slowing right down there. Whether he's having, I surmised last time that it might be gearbox trouble, he might be having trouble getting gears. It's a very likely fault to have on this circuit because it's going to give those gearboxes an awful bashing, but Prost has dropped right back now with that evident problem.
And look how closely now Pironi, Giacomelli, Cheever and Lauda, third, fourth, fifth and sixth, are behind the new second place man, Alain Prost. Prost, there is no doubt about it, has got some problem in the cockpit. Whether it might even be him, of course. Let us not forget that Alain Prost hurt his foot at Monaco, and this race is going to be extremely grueling for him. He's broken a big toe. He has been walking about in considerable pain. Niki Lauda now right up with Cheever in fifth position. Cheever fifth and Lauda sixth. There are Pironi, Giacomelli, Cheever, Lauda. This Detroit Grand Prix may have been at time getting away, but it's great stuff now.
Yes, certainly, because Lauda looks as if he's had enough of sitting at the back of that group and is definitely lining up to have a look-see for a way past. So we've really got it going. I should be interested to see what happens. Oops, and Giacomelli just recovers that. He very, very nearly spun it. He did well to recover. Lauda trying to have a go through, but Cheever is the only one to benefit from that mistake. He nips up. We'll now see if Cheever can do anything about the Ferrari in front. Meanwhile, of course, they're catching up on Prost, and what might happen if Prost reduces himself to a crawl around these blind corners. And things as Lauda having a go through, and Lauda nips through past Giacomelli, so Giacomelli's having a lap that he would prefer to forget.
And smoke pouring off Lauda's tyres. And a very quick word just to talk about this tyre position. In the lead now is the Goodyear shod car of Keke Rosberg, and of course it is terribly important to Goodyear that one of their runners wins here at Detroit of all places. Prost there on Michelin, then Michelin with Pironi, Michelin with Cheever, Niki Lauda is also on Michelin, and so is Giacomelli. So in the first 6 cars, there is just one Goodyear shod runner, but it's the most important from their point of view because it is the leader. And now John Watson is moving up from the field. You just see a flash of him in the background. John Watson is in 7th place, having come up from 13th. So he is having an epic drive of which we have seen nothing. Now look at Prost. Now there is Pironi. We're going to have a tremendous 4 or 5 car battle for second position soon.
Well, the McLarens have found certainly new life. They look very much revitalised, and it wouldn't surprise me if Lauda put up the fastest lap before he got stuck in the traffic and couldn't do any fast lappery. Watson's obviously going very fast, and I think we could have had a potential McLaren win yet again in this race if it hadn't been for this big traffic jam and a couple of turbos, which Lauda has got to deal with, and Watson, if he's going to do anything later in the race, will also have to deal with, because meanwhile it's letting Rosberg build his lead, but his lead is not too big to crack, depending on, or certainly not from this position, just depending on how long it's going to take Lauda and/or Watson and/or Cheever, for that matter, to dispatch with these turbocharged cars.
Well, there's confirmation of the fact that Prost is in trouble, because look, now Pironi is right with him, so is Cheever in his new 4th position, so is Lauda in his new 5th position, and Giacomelli seems to have lost a bit of heart and is dropping back in 6th position. John Watson coming up in 7th place. Behind John Watson in 8th position it is Daly. Then in 9th position it is Jacques Lafitte. In 10th place it is René Arnoux, who slipped down another place. In 11th position is Nigel Mansell. And look at this. Arnoux, Prost, Pironi, Cheever, Lauda, Giacomelli, and then John Watson. The race has been running 39 minutes. And we expect it to run 78 minutes, so it's just about at half distance if we're right. And if you are thinking, what do you mean if we're right, you should know. The answer is that it's a great deal of confusion at Detroit today, but we seem to be on top of it now with Keke Rosberg leading, and there were sparks coming up from one of the cars as it went through the tunnel there. Keke Rosberg leading, Alain Prost 2nd, there he is. Pironi 3rd, there he is and challenging. Cheever 4th, there he is behind Pironi. In 5th position, Niki Lauda. In 6th position, Giacomelli. And just behind Giacomelli and closing fast on him, John Watson. We are very soon going to have both the Marlboro McLarens in the first 6, because John Watson will determinedly find a way somehow to scramble past the Panda, which is what Bruno Giacomelli is called, largely because he has a tendency to look like one. Prost, Pironi, Cheever, Lauda, Giacomelli, Watson. That's how close it is. Now, the overall positions as Pironi tries to take Prost and fails. This is taking both parts into account. Keke Rosberg is leading Prost by 6 seconds. Prost is 18 seconds ahead of Pironi, who has got right behind him Giacomelli, Cheever and Lauda. Watson is 8th. Daly is in 9th position. We'll try not to do that too often to you because we know it's confusing. And Pironi is going through to take the position from Prost, and he does it. And Lafitte and Cheever tries as well. Well, Prost is giving confirmation all the time about the fact that something is wrong. I really do suspect that it is foot trouble rather than car trouble. So now Didier Pironi in the Ferrari is up into 2nd place, and without a doubt, therefore, Keke Rosberg is leading the race overall.
Well, it presents a bit of a problem for Eddie Cheever, because you saw how difficult it was and how long it took Pironi to pass Prost, and of course he has the advantage of having actually probably slightly more power than Prost, whereas the others. But Cheever's having a go here. He's alongside us. He's going through, and Lauda's coming through as well. So very good opportunism by Lauda. He managed to take the space that Cheever already created and stick with it, and left Prost nowhere to go to get into the apex of the corner. They left him well behind.
Giacomelli's going through.
Yeah, Giacomelli having a nibble as well.
One correction I feel I must make at this point is that Murray Walker said that the 6 cars behind that of Keke Rosberg were on Michelin tyres. In fact, the Ferrari is on Goodyear tyres, so now that puts Goodyear in first and second place. Back to Murray Walker and James Hunt at Detroit.
The points.
Yes, poor old Prost, he's not really having a very happy season. This injury, I think Murray is likely to be quite right on that. It's quite likely to be the trouble. Has come sort of capped it all because he was winning at Monte Carlo. He makes one little mistake, and he's finding out the hard way that winning the World Championship is not just being the best car driver combination. It requires luck, which Prost certainly isn't having much of, and it requires a great deal of hard work to try and keep away whatever element of luck you can, because that one little error that he made in Monte Carlo, if that's hurting him here, this looks to me like a race that he should have won. If that's the reason, then you can say that might take him on, and he's not accumulating points in the championship in the way that he'd like to or ought to be doing, be it through his own fault or through luck. But luck plays a big part.
Yes, and he's going to lose his World Championship lead at the end of this race unless something incredibly dramatic happens. But let's take a pause on lap 23 as Niki Lauda tries to get past Cheever and look at the situation. Keke Rosberg leads this part of the race and overall in the new FW08 Williams. In second place, there he is, number 28, Didier Pironi in the Ferrari. Third is Eddie Cheever in the Talbot. Fourth is Niki Lauda in the McLaren. There it is. In fifth position behind Niki Lauda is we are on lap 24 in part 2. And I was sorry, I missed telling you who was following Niki Lauda, and the answer, of course, is still Bruno Giacomelli. And behind Bruno Giacomelli is John Watson, and there you see Watson is now ahead of Giacomelli. That was the change that you just saw. So all of a sudden, this race, which was looking static, has really come alive. Alain Prost has lost the lead and slipped right down out of world points contention. And now Eddie Cheever is trying to get past Pironi and failing. Eddie Cheever is the man of the race in many ways at the moment.
Yes, very nearly are coming together there. Lauda is taking the chance to slow Cheever down a little bit to try and get by him, but the track's just a little bit too windy. There's just not the space.
There, Pironi second, Cheever third, Lauda fourth, Watson fifth, Giacomelli down to sixth position. Behind Giacomelli, who is sixth, Alain Prost is in seventh position, but dropping back all the time. I think we can put the unfortunate Alain Prost out of contention in this race.
Yes, I'm beginning to get the feeling that the kindest thing for the Grand Prix on this occasion, the Ferrari has caused us a very good race, but I think now it's time that it should be hauled up to the bet and put down, because it's holding up the progress of any sort of a battle with Rosberg. We've seen these drivers, young drivers, Cheever, Giacomelli, try everything they know to get past the Ferrari, but they can't. And without a mistake, I don't think anybody's going to, although they're really climbing. Lauda maybe having a little look beside Cheever, but just not quite in there. He looked as if he had room then, but must have thought better of it for some reason. He's very experienced now. He's not going to take any risks. He knows that the way to pick up points in these races is to be around at the end. But Watson is having a go at his teammate, Lauda. He was having a little sniff and a nibble.
John Watson has come up from 13th to 5th, and now Giacomelli is trying to take John Watson, and looks as though he's going to succeed in doing it, or is he? Watson's got the inside line. No, you don't, says John Watson. Well, it's worth trying, says Giacomelli. I'll have another go, and smokes his tyres and almost stops. And he does so. He's hit the wheel. Yes,
he ran into Watson's rear wheel, and that was bad driving by Giacomelli. He committed himself to a situation he had no chance in, and I have to say that Watson was very lucky to survive that unscathed, if he indeed does, because sometimes you do a little crack in the suspension, he goes another quarter of a mile. We'll see it again here. Now Giacomelli getting a bit overexcited, as is his wont, takes a real kamikaze run. He's now committed, but he's not past Watson. Watson turns into the corner, as he's entitled to do. Giacomelli can't get out of the way. Off comes his front wheel with a little bash, but it caught the side of Watson's rear wheel, so hopefully for him he should be all right. A bit of smoke coming off Watson's car then, but he gets away all right.
Well, Giacomelli was very lucky, and so was whoever might have been behind him, that he didn't take somebody off, because if there'd been somebody as close to Giacomelli as he was to Watson, he would undoubtedly have been taken off. And it's another example, I fear, of Giacomelli's tendency to be slightly too impetuous, although heaven knows you've just got to have a go where you see a chance on a circuit like this. But now it is still Rosberg leading overall. As of the last lap, Prost was still in second position overall, but it's now in this part, Pironi second, Cheever third, Lauda fourth, Watson fifth, and Watson looks in very good shape behind Niki Lauda.
Here are the standings as you look down live on the Renaissance Center in Detroit and on the race course for the first Detroit Grand Prix. Rosberg of Finland still a solid leader. John Watson of Great Britain in second place on the race course. Pironi of third of France, when the Ferrari is third. This is the way they appear on the race course. Total time a little bit different, but here's third, fourth, and fifth on the race course. The Ferrari of Pironi, then Eddie Cheever, then Niki Lauda. Now, it may be that some of you around the country are just joining us. Kind of difficult to sum up the goings-on in this first Detroit Grand Prix, because after only 6 laps, the race was stopped for more than an hour because of an accident on the race course. Nothing in which anybody was injured, but it required, under the Formula One rules, that the race be stopped for a given period of time. It was more than an hour. Alain Prost of France led the race at that point. He continued to lead until he was passed by Keke Rosberg of Finland. What you're watching right now is a battle for second, third, and fourth, and there is Niki Lauda getting past Eddie Cheever of the United States. He's passed him. Battle for third, fourth, and fifth on the race course. What I was going to explain further is that when we get into the later stages of the race, we're going to be talking about total elapsed time, because that's the only way the true standing in this race can be known. And on total elapsed time, the time they had run before the red flag and the time they have run since added together, Rosberg's the leader, Pironi is second, Cheever third, Lauda fourth, and John Watson fifth, although Watson has passed these 3 cars on the race course. Familiar sights for so many years in Grand Prix racing, the red car of the team from Maranello, Ferrari. This is Jim McKay with Jackie Stewart in the commentary booth. We have Sam Posey out on the race course moving around, and as is traditional, Kristen Kanamaki in the pits. But did Niki Lauda teach Eddie Cheever a little something about driving in the corners when he passed him?
Yes, he did. In fact, the experience of Niki Lauda obviously showed a little bit at that time. Eddie Cheever driving very positively, though. He has never won a Grand Prix. This would be a remarkably good finish for him in front of his own home American crowd. Didi Pironi driving the car number 28 Ferrari there again is definitely holding up Niki Lauda, and so also is he holding up, of course, Eddie Cheever. So it's a pretty complicated issue right now to find a way past this mobile chicane, because the Ferrari has been proving itself to be faster on the straight stretches, although he has certainly been slow around the braking areas. And there you can see how Niki Lauda really closes us on, tucking himself in behind the rear wing of Didi Pironi's Ferrari. That's Jacques Lafitte coming up, and he's passed him. In fact, Niki Lauda has got through, passing Pironi's Ferrari as they come down here, going towards the top of Hall, and Eddie Cheever trying on one side, now another. Can he sneak in? Not on this corner, I fear, but almost could he have done it. Now as they cross the trolley rails or railway lines or whatever they may be.
We call them trolley tracks.
You call them trolley tracks as they go down to the river of Detroit. Niki Lauda, tremendously experienced driver, and the back end kicks out there as his
Wiggly
Ford
driver
engine
right there.
Pours in about 500 brake horsepower. 3 different engine manufacturers there. The Ford engine of Niki Lauda, followed by the Ferrari Fiat engine, and then the Chrysler Matra engine behind that.
On Eddie Cheever moving up a bit on Pironi there. Look, Cheever really trying to set up his man as Lauda begins to move away from the 2 of them. And on that total elapsed time, Lauda has to move away from them a little more to effectively be ahead of them. But let's watch the racing on the course, because it's very good stuff. Cheever now still right behind Pironi. French driver for Ferrari, the only driver for Ferrari now since the tragic death of his teammate Gilles Villeneuve a few weeks ago.
Well, there you see Finland represented from Northern Ireland, John Watson. He, of course, comes from Belfast. And there, in fact, is Prost still in the pits. Alain Prost sitting in the pits there, surrounded by mechanics, looking almost casual, almost uninterested. And there, Eddie Cheevers does pass the Ferrari.
Sure
well,
does.
a cheer goes up from the American crowd. Well, will the American flag fly as the Frenchman in the Italian car gets passed by Eddie Cheever, making his home in Italy. John Watson, you can see through there. And there we have a pass for the lead. John Watson has caught Keke Rosberg.
Okay, again, that's for the lead on the race course. He is first among all the cars on the race course. He is not first on total time overall. But the racing is what we're watching. As far as racing is concerned, he has made his move and taken the effective lead on the race course right here.
Well, again, a very gutsy move by John Watson. He's driven very positively this year so far. He won the Grand Prix of Belgium. He's won 3 Grand Prix right now. He wants to win a 4th one. This is, of course, a replay, and we are live here at the Detroit Grand Prix, but now he has to build up an enormous lead on the road, probably an impossible lead on the road to win this motor race. Keke Rosberg may well be driving with a great deal of intelligence here, allowing his car to be gently driven for the remainder of this race, knowing quite well he only has to keep John Watson in sight. So therefore, difficult for us to see this on television, but that's it.
In fact, he has a 23-second lead on the total time. We'll be right back. Well, we're back again looking down on the race course, on the city of Detroit, and I guess a good many of you tuned in ABC's Wide World of Sports not expecting to see this race. Neither did we, because being Formula One racing, we expected that it would take 2 hours or the total number of laps scheduled, whichever came first, because that's the way it normally goes. They just don't stop. But they did have a red flag, a stop of more than an hour, and so we have a lot more racing yet to come. It's a fascinating afternoon here. A beautiful sunshiny day now. It was overcast earlier, but the international flavor, the ambiance of Grand Prix is definitely here in Detroit. On the one side, we have the Detroit River with the boats bobbing out there, people out for a sail and stopping and looking at the race. Then you have a huge crowd in the infield and in the grandstands. People are watching from all the office buildings around Detroit, from the hotel where we stayed. Our hotel, believe it or not, is in the infield of the race course, effectively.
Yes, one of the most remarkable vistas, I think, anywhere in the world, a major metropolis of this kind. And Coleman Young, the mayor of Detroit, must be very happy. Max Fisher and Henry Ford, who started this whole Grand Prix effort going on, really should be highly complimented to bring a motor race of this kind to this, the capital of the motor industry. In fact, everybody should get a tremendous amount of credit for it. It's certainly creating an enormous amount of excitement. I mean, the people around Detroit, I've never seen Detroit so feverish in its excitement, Jim.
Yeah, and earlier in the week there were a lot of complaints because it was taking such a long time to set up the race. You have to remember, here is a big city. They couldn't start to set up until, what, Thursday, I suppose.
That's right.
And it took a little longer than expected. Then we had terrible rain yesterday, and it was really kind of depressing for a while. But the sun came out today. The racing is going on, and it's live, so we better get back to it. A wide look at the race course with the left-hand turn in front of Cobo Hall. There's John Watson, who is in first place on the race course. He is, however, quite a ways back and in third place on total time. But you are showing you right now the way they stand on the course, not the way they would stand were this the end of the race and the total time was announced.
John Watson, a driver of enormous experience, a man who's been around for a very long time, was driving when I was driving Grand Prix cars, always a very talented driver, very smooth, very calm and calculated. A driver, perhaps, if anything, who has lost perhaps a little sharpness and aggression. He's almost too nice to be a really good racing driver. Not a very nice thing to say about my colleagues in a way, but John Watson is a very gentle man. He's a very smooth driver. He's a driver's driver in a way, a technical driver, not a man who seeks the crowd very much, but certainly seeks the power. And the way he's applied that with this, his McLaren car, certainly is showing his and demonstrating his talent very fully.
John Watson at age 36 leading. He's won one race this year. That was the Belgian Grand Prix. In his car number 7 right now in first place on the race course. in third place as far as the total time is concerned. Makes his home in London. Originally from Northern Ireland, and Jackie talked to him earlier.
What is the big attraction for you to drive Grand Prix Formula One?
For me, it's very simple. I just like driving Grand Prix cars, or I like driving racing cars, and Grand Prix cars to me is the highest level of motor racing. It's a feel, a sensation, a pleasure. It's a hobby for me also, and I think I can't imagine any other sport that can give me the pleasure that I get out of motor racing.
Watson, John Watson, talking about why he likes Formula One and Grand Prix racing. And there he is on the race course. It's in the late afternoon of a summer Sunday in Detroit. There you see the Detroit River and the Ambassador Bridge to Canada in the background. Down in the pits, Christy Kanamaki. What do you have, Chris?
Just giving the leader, John Watson, a sign that we've never seen in motor racing before. It says P1 minus 19 seconds. Usually it's plus so many seconds over the man behind. But before Watson can win this race, he has got to beat Rosberg by the space he's ahead and another 19 seconds. And that's what Watson gets now in the pits. Back to you, Jim.
Okay, Chris, that's just how confusing it is because of the red flag, the hour delay, and the restart, and the race being decided on total time rather than it would be in American racing where they would close up and it would be, whoops,
And
one of the red and white
like
cars,
Nicky
number 8,
Lauda.
that's Niki Lauda.
Yep.
Yep.
Nicky's stop must be very disappointing for him. He's undoing his seatbelts, getting out of the office. Niki Lauda, yep, he's out for the day, I think. You see the car being pushed out of the way, perhaps, being pushed backwards. Nicky very calm. He's not at all excited by the whole affair of retirement on this particular day. He's probably a little tired. He's taking his helmet off, taking his balaclava off. He's probably won't take it off completely. No, he leaves it on because he was hopelessly burned in the head when he had that shocking accident in 1976.
Well, what this means now is that Lauda was in second place on overall time, so now Watson, who is first on the race course, will move up into second place overall. Keke Rosberg, second on the race course, is still an easy leader in the race. So what you see on the screen, remember, is the way they stand on the race course, not the way they stand in total time.
Pironi went right off at the hairpin there, took a very wide berth, it would seem. I don't know quite what happened there. It looked that he might have been having brake problems, and that would suggest that would be the case. Eddie Cheevers is now closing right up on Keke Rosberg. Eddie Cheever driving the blue and white car behind the number 6 car of Keke Rosberg, and here we see again Pironi coming in here, trying to accelerate him. In fact, he's
he had already spun. He was coming back the other way, Jack.
Exactly. He had spun around.
Because we saw Cheever going
in the opposite direction. He had really spun it around, so he was going a way that had never been seen in Detroit before, apart from being a street driver, perhaps.
He did a 360. You just saw Niki Lauda, a quick shot of him behind the barrier there. But now the way they stand over us, Rosberg, Watson, Lauda, and Eddie Cheever, not Lauda, Lauda's now out, so Eddie Cheever is effectively third in the race.
Well, a tremendous thing for Cheever. It would be great to see him finished as well, and he's still very much in the race there. You see him right there. It looks like he has passed Keke Rosberg. Now, he is on the road ahead of Keke Rosberg right now.
What is your conjecture, that Rosberg is cooling it that much, or is he perhaps slowing down? Eddie Cheever just passed him like he was standing still. There's Rosberg.
There he is indeed. He seems that he may well be in some kind of trouble. I would like to know now what the gap is, in fact, between Rosberg and Watson, to see if that has narrowed. It does seem to be narrowing a little bit.
It appears to be just 11 seconds. That's unofficial, but although it's a long way, if it's narrowing, there's still a long way to go in the race. And we so well remember last Sunday when the difference was 10 seconds with 11 laps to go, and it ended up 16 100ths at Indianapolis. Let's take another break. Back again live in Detroit, and this race is really closing up. It's difficult to show it to you visually because this car, number 7 of John Watson, is now in second place, but he's moving up on total time on Rosberg of Finland. Rosberg still leads, but only by 4 seconds overall over Watson, 9 seconds over Eddie Cheever of the United States. So obviously, they are catching up and catching up fast on total time.
Yes, John Watson passing a slower car there. He's lapping Sturer of Switzerland. John Watson, car number 7, is our leader on the road. driving very forcibly indeed. He's passed with great determination a great many cars. He's come from behind. He did not qualify too well because of the inclement weather yesterday and the lack of practice and qualifying time. His car was not handling well over the 2 days of unofficial practice and qualifying. So therefore John Watson is definitely demonstrating to everyone now that he is very much a force to be reckoned with in the World Championship and could easily take the lead in this World Championship if his car continues to run after this race.
Well, when we get in the closing stage of this race, we'll be checking the point standings on the season-long point business for the World Championship. Leader on the race course is Watson. Leader overall. The leader overall is now Watson. Watson has passed Rosberg not only on the race course but in the standings, and now has a 3-second lead over Rosberg, 7 seconds over Eddie Cheever of the United States. That American is very much in contention. Those three could battle it out. In fact, it could be just the two, the Northern Ireland Britisher and Eddie Cheever of the United States. Well, we're going to go away for a while to Wide World of Sports. Some aerobatics coming up. But there's John Watson, the leader in this race. So, off to the aerobatics we'll go to return to this live competition here in Detroit shortly. Back again live in Detroit. We are told unofficially there are a little less than 20 minutes left in the race. Remember, this race, the Detroit Grand Prix, was to be 75 laps or 2 hours, whichever should come first, a total of laps running time. It's obvious they're not going to go 75 laps. The 2 hours should be effective, and according to that, there should be a little less than 20 minutes to go in the race. Now, the leader, of course, is John Watson. 52 laps have now been completed. You're looking at 7th through 12th place at the moment, but you saw that Watson is the leader. As you now get a good look at downtown Detroit, and there he is, the 36-year-old driver from Northern Ireland, driving for Team McLaren, the Ford-powered McLaren car. He has had one win earlier this season in the Grand Prix of Belgium and a second in Brazil, and if he wins this race, he will easily take the lead in the overall season-long battle for the championship. He will have 26 points. In second place will be Pironi if he stays where he is, 19. They tell him he is 28 seconds ahead of Eddie Cheever. That's overall. He's actually more than that on the race course. But the important thing is, how many seconds overall? Well, he has a 28-second lead. So, Jackie Stewart's been watching all this. What's your comment?
Well, he's also got 18 minutes left in the race. Because this is going to be called a 2-hour race, he's got 18 minutes left. So therefore, the pit want him to know that. If he has to conserve the car, if he has to take it a little bit easy, he knows that there's only 18 minutes left. Unquestionably, John Watson will be getting tired now. Physically, it's an extraordinarily tiring experience to drive a car. Now, here's Eddie Cheever, the young American, driving very forcibly indeed. A remarkable performance in front of his own home crowd in second position. That's right, and the best he has ever finished in his Grand Prix career is third. That came in the Grand Prix of Belgium not long ago in this year of 1982. Chris Economaki has Niki Lauda in the pits. Chris?
Nicky, you look like a race fan at this point of the day. Like you're rooting for John. He's doing a beautiful job.
I tried to outbrake Rosberg down there, and he cut the corner. You know, he cut the line. It was really my fault because I shouldn't have tried it down there. So I jumped over him, took airborne.
Too bad. You're rooting for John Watson, I'm sure, huh?
I hope he wins.
Better luck next time, Nicky.
Thank you.
Okay, Nicky Lauda. Pretty noisy down here.
Former world champion Niki Lauda. Yes, Jackie?
A very honest declaration from a man of enormous experience. He therefore said that Keke Rosberg, he felt, made a slight mistake, but it was his fault that he had allowed himself to be put into a set of circumstances where he could be endangered by Rosberg putting him out of the race. That's a very mature way to look at it. It's not a question of saying somebody else was at fault. He knew himself he shouldn't have been there at that moment. Niki Lauda, a wise man.
The great champion would normally react that way, whether it's Bill Shoemaker in horse racing, Niki Lauda in motor racing, Jack Nicklaus in golf, whoever it might be. There is the leader, John Watson. Ironic and interesting that it was just yesterday he was involved in an incident during practice in the rain here. It would have been possible he might not even have been able to participate, but there he is leading, going through the tunnel as we come to you live. But this was yesterday. John Watson in the red and white car. Watch it, car number 7, coming up behind Arnoux.
And Watch what happens here. He just gets shot off the front end there, and the front wheel you can see is out of line. The front wing also out of line. He felt that he was sure going inside the car there, probably been driven by Jacques Lafitte, was it? And then he went up inside trying to get under braking. He thought he had made it, and look what happens. He was a little tentative there at that point, and right there at that moment, he of course strikes the barrier on the left-hand side of the racetrack and also damages himself. And John
Wait
Watson,
a minute, this is live. That was on... Oh, no. All right, hold it. Faked ourselves out on this one. Suddenly we cut to this tight shot. That is still from yesterday's incident.
well, of course, with only a day to go, John Watson was more than just a little bit annoyed. We're now looking at him right now live here in Detroit, and John Watson is very much still in the motor race, still powering his 4-powered McLaren around this 2.5-mile racetrack. Remember, this is a normally aspirated engine, 3-litre capacity, 3,000 cc's, as he drives around here with about 480 brake horsepower coming to these rear wheels.
John Watson with a 27-second overall lead over Eddie Cheever. Didier Pironnet is third. K.K. Rosberg is still fourth. Jacques Lafitte is fifth. We'll be back. Nearing the closing laps of the Detroit Grand Prix. Lap 54 completed of a schedule 75, but it will not be ended according to the laps. The rule is the lap numbers or 2 hours in Grand Prix racing, whichever shall come first, and it's going to be the 2 hours. So we have about 12 minutes of racing left here as John Watson continues to lead now by 26 seconds over Eddie Cheever. May be slowing it down just a little bit. Didier Pironnet is third, and there he shows by 27 seconds. And here is Eddie Cheever in second place, apparently headed for the finest finish of his career and in his own country, the United States. He's spent very little time here, lived most of his life in Europe, but still an American citizen. He's 25 years old, makes his home in Monte Carlo, spends a lot of time in Italy, but drives for the French team of Talbot, that's the name of the car, and Ligier, that's Guy Ligier, a former Grand Prix and endurance driver who runs the team. Remember when Guy Ligier first brought his own car to Le Mans back in the early 60s when we first started going there. But Eddie Cheever is one of the big stories. You'll be reading about him in the papers and the magazines next week. Jackie talked to him.
Living in Italy, being an American, how close is America to you in respect to representing your country or flying your flag in the internationalism that Grand Prix racing is surrounded by?
Very much so. I'm proud to be an American, and I would never change my nationality in any way, for any reason. But I cannot see myself living in America for a long time. I think after, when I stop racing, I do something else, I would like to move to America. But for the moment, I am an American living abroad, but I'm a proud American living abroad.
A very well put statement by Eddie Cheever in second place in this Detroit Grand Prix. So one day he'll probably return home. And of course, the main reason, as I think he indicated earlier in an interview, that he's staying in Europe is to be a Formula One racer, and that's where it is for the most part. Cheever flashing through the picture. Watson first, then Cheever second, Pironnet third, Rosberg fourth, Jacques Lafitte fifth in the overall standings. We're going to be coming back for the finish of this race, of course. Right now, we're going to be returning very briefly to our New York studio. ABC colleague Jack Whitaker has been holding forth there, as you know, all afternoon in the post operation, as we call it. So let's go to Jack again right now. Okay, Jack. Back live again in Detroit. About 6 minutes remaining in the first Detroit Grand Prix, a World Championship Formula One race. This is Jim McKay reporting with Jackie Stewart in the commentary position. John Watson, car number 7 there, leads the race comfortably by some 24 seconds over Eddie Cheever of the United States. Right there, car number, no, that's his teammate. That was car number 26, Jacques Lafitte. But it looks just like Eddie Cheever's car, whom you'll be seeing along the line here. But we're establishing the leader. Cheever trailing by 24 seconds. Pironnet in Ferrari is third. Rosberg of Finland is fourth. And Derek Daly of Ireland is in fifth place. Now here is Eddie Cheever, car number 25. The American headed, if he just holds place here, for his best finish ever in Formula One racing.
Well, he should be a happy man if he can keep this thing running for a few more laps, a few more minutes, because Eddie Cheever to finish second in a Grand Prix in his own home ground is indeed, and there you see it, It shows only 4 minutes to go for John Watson, who's leading this race. He's plus 25 seconds now on Eddie Cheever, with, they reckon, only 4 minutes to go. We're across from the pits and across from the finishing line with the checkered flag man standing high, so we will look out for that. It's an unusual event with the Renaissance Center in the back of this street race. We're live in Detroit, and we're looking at a very unusual race that was stopped very close to the beginning, only after 6 laps with an accident. No injury to any of the drivers involved, but it did hold the event up for 1 hour.
The way I figure it unofficially, assuming the standings stay the way they are right now, John Watson in the World Championship point standings will move up to 26 points. In second place would be Pironi with 19, Rosberg with 18, tied with Alain Prost, who led this race early until he went out with mechanical problems. As for Eddie Cheever, he only had 6 points for one third-place finish, or for a third-place finish and another fairly high-up finish. Eddie Cheever will have a total of 12 and will move up somewhere among the leaders. He's going to have a shot still at the World Championship if he can drive like this.
Well, it's a great start for him in this new car, because this car that he's driving now was only introduced at the Monaco Grand Prix that we covered in ABC's Wide World of Sports. The car at that time was a little fresh, a little new, didn't do so well. This car, the McLaren car powered by the Ford engine, has been developed over a great number of years by McLaren Racing, started by Bruce McLaren, a great favourite here in America, not so much because of his Grand Prix racing, but because of his Can-Am racing. He was a great New Zealander who won the Can-Am Championship, not only himself, but Denny Hulme, his teammate, won in the McLaren car in the Can-Am. He also won an American Grand Prix and was, I think, the youngest driver ever to win a Grand Prix. So Bruce McLaren winning, I think it was at Sebring, way long time ago, in a Cooper Climax many years back.
Bruce, of course, tragically killed while testing a car in England a good many years ago now. Plus 25. And
they consider it's only 2 laps. Now, this team have worked out what his lap time is, and they consider that it's only 2 laps left for him. So they've now trying to give their driver an indication of how many laps he has to go.
So it's still being done on the time basis. All we can await is the checkered flag to make it actually official that John Watson has won his second Grand Prix race of the year. He won Belgium earlier.
Very impressive drive by John Watson, very determined in his run through traffic. He didn't win this race by other people dropping out. He passed a lot of cars. He drove with great verve, and here we see the rumoured turbocharged victories that they've all been expecting have been dissipated once again, and the normally aspirated engines, in fact, are holding first and second place right now.
First Watson, second Cheever. There is no battle for any of the leading places here. You'd be seeing it. Watson with a 20-second lead over Cheever, a 30-second lead over Pironi, and then a huge gap back to Rosberg, who's a minute and 12 seconds behind. Derek Daly 122 behind. Those are the only cars on the same lap, by the way. Those 5 automobiles.
He passes the start-finishing line. It may well be about the last lap for Eddie Cheever. We have to wait and see how the minutes tick away, but he's obviously has no intention of making any errors, and we're looking down at our leader right now, John Watson, car number 7.
They're telling us that when he passes the start-finish line, there you see the sign from his pits, he will have 1 more lap to go. Although it's being done on a time basis, his pit crew obviously has figured out how the time basis relates to lap. They figure they'll have 1 more to go when he comes past the start-finish line.
Well, he'll be staying well away from those concrete walls as he goes down here. He'll be braking a little bit early. The freeway on our right-hand side, the racetrack on our left there as we look down Jefferson from the heights of Cobo Hall. John Watson from Belfast in Northern Ireland, carrying, of course, a British passport and a British entered car with a British Ford engine in it. John Watson powering himself through the darkness of the tunnel, obviously not doing it with any verve at this stage. All he's concerned about is doing 1 more lap, which will be 2.5 miles around, and only 20 more corners to go for him.
Okay, they're getting the checkered flag out. They're not waving it, but we'll be watching the flagman to make sure this is not there. You see the flagman. That's it. That's it. It's all over. There was not 1 more lap to go.
Bravo, bravo.
Checkered flag means in any kind of automobile racing, under any kind of scoring, that it's all over. And John Watson of Northern Ireland, Great Britain, has won. He won a total of 62 laps in the 2-hour time limit. Second place will go, when he gets to the start-finish line, to Eddie Cheever of the United States. There it is, the checkered flag for Eddie Cheever with his best ever finish in Formula One racing. You see the crowd behind applauding the winner, Watson, as he slows way down in his victory lap here.
He's lifted up his visor or his face shield. And he's pulling off the racetrack right there. They're pulling him off right there to put him into the compound to ensure that the cars are going to be verified in regulations. The victory that we have just quoted, of course, is still subject to official confirmation, as will also the second place finish of Eddie Cheever's B and of Didier Pironi, who is, at this time, the car you're looking at, the Ferrari car number 28, has been credited with third place. Keke Rosberg from Finland being fourth, and then Derek Daly from Southern Ireland. He be fifth in the race, with Jacques Lafitte of France taking up for the sixth.
There is Cheever going right into the garage area.
This is a compound that the cars have been brought in there to the garage area. They will then be put on a special vehicle to be driven around to Victory Circle, where they will, as ever, be presented with the garlands, the trophies, and of course the traditional bottle of champagne that will be sprayed by the winning driver. So therefore, the Victory Circle still to come.
So it's Watson and Cheever, Pironi and Rosberg, Daly and Lafitte, all unofficial. We'll be back for the final doings from Detroit. Well, there's another look at the Renaissance Center and at the final unofficial standings in the Detroit Grand Prix, the first one ever. John Watson, Eddie Cheever, Didier Pironi, Keke Rosberg, Derek Daly, and Jacques Lafitte. Then Jochen Mass, Mark Surer, Brian Hinton, René Arnoux, Chico Serra of Brazil, and Alain Prost finishing way down in 12th place after he led this race in the early going. He, who had been the overall point leader, has now dropped down to third place. This again is unofficial. Our own edition shows that John Watson now leads on the season-long Grand Prix championship standings. Remember, there's still a long way to go, 9 more races. But John Watson leads with 26 points. Didier Pironi is second with 20. Prost with 18. Keke Rosberg 17. Patrese 13. Niki Lauda of Austria 12. Eddie Cheever of the United States, according to this unofficial computation, with 10 points. So Eddie, by his second place finish today, has moved up into a point where he is, well, if not quite among the top 5, but in a position, if he should start winning some of these Grand Prix, he still has plenty of time to win the World Championship. More important, he has stamped himself as one of the guys, one of the veterans, one of the very competitive racers in the Formula One circuit. So, what's your comment on the race, sir?
Well, I think, first of all, John Watson showed immense maturity, the way that he handled traffic, the way in the convincing fashion that he passed other cars with great authority. I think Eddie Cheevers has shown himself today to be a front runner in Grand Prix motor racing, and it's very nice to see an American coming back to that position. It's been a long time since Mario Andretti was winning the World Championship, and of course before that Phil Hill. A welcome return to America in the field of the most international form of motorsport anywhere in the world, Jim. I think the reliability of the normally aspirated engines has again shown that these cars have authority. The Ford engine pumped up another victory. I was lucky enough to win all 3 of my World Championships like that in that motor. But I mean, the Ferraris went well, the Alfa Romeos had mechanical trouble. A torturous racetrack on the cars, and I'm sure also in the drivers. If we do have the opportunity to see the winners coming onto the rostrum, I'm sure they'll be looking tired and exhausted, because those 20 laps around this 2.5-mile circuit has to be one of the most grueling efforts in the sport today. There's no doubt in my mind that these racing drivers are athletes, Jim. They don't sit there and have a Sunday afternoon drive.
I don't think there's any question of that. They lose 5 to 10 pounds while they're out there, I believe. But one other important aspect, I think, Jackie, is that the organizers of the Detroit Grand Prix have put on a race. They've put on their first race, and more important than that, they have put it on with no injuries to any drivers, no major incidents, and as far as we could see, everything was conducted very well out there by the marshals and by the stewards. There may be some discussion later about stopping the race, red flagging it. There is John Watson. Eddie Cheever with him. Eddie Cheever in the blue and white, John Watson in the red and white. And Pironi with the word candy on the back there in the other red uniform.
In fact, they've got all the drivers on there. I see Jochen Mass, I see Keke Rosberg, they've got a full house there. In fact, all the drivers waving to the massive crowd that has come here, and considering it's the very first Grand Prix of Detroit, I'd like to add my congratulations to all of the organisers and to Detroit for bringing this amazing event to this city. Long may it last, many more I hope they'll be. But look, you see a lot of tired drivers sitting down and resting as they're driven around the Renaissance Centre to the start-finishing line area there to come back, of course, to be presented with their trophies.
For John Watson, victory at age 36. For Eddie Cheever, tremendous promise and victory in his native land at age 25. That's about the story then, as you look down one more time from high overhead on a pleasant summer afternoon at the city of downtown Detroit. Well, tomorrow morning they'll be taking down the race course. Traffic will be bad. In a few weeks, maybe a pothole or two will appear on the race course, and all will return to normal. Now back to Jack Whittaker.